No? Okay, in all seriousness, in my last video discussing why the good doctor fails at autism representation, I saw a lot of you suggest House MD as an example of good autism representation from the same creator of the good doctor, that being David Shore. A lot of you seem to think that House MD contained good representation, which surprised me, because I've actually never seen House as an autistic character. I will say, however, I think there are some interesting mental health angles you can explore with House as a character. So, I want to take this video, since y'all still suggested this character a lot, to discuss why House isn't autistic, and how if he were autistic, he would still be a bad character by the end of the day. But before we begin, be sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We're currently closing in on 7,000 subscribers, and I would love to hit 8,000 by the end of the year here. Be sure to share this video with somebody that you think might like this message as well. Also join my Discord if you haven't already as well. We often discuss there what topic I'm going to cover next on YouTube. But anyway, on to today's video. So to begin, we should start with some background of how House was created to begin with. In the early 2000s, the Fox television network was gaining major momentum over all the other networks, even topping Disney's ABC, which at the time had been struggling quite a bit in the ratings. The only real major competitor Fox had at the time was actually CBS, who was succeeding quite a bit thanks to many different crime-driven shows and a few different medical dramas as well. Fox at this current time was succeeding thanks to shows like The Simpsons and other animated sitcoms, giving them a pretty broad range of appeal, while also dabbling in the more controversial shows like Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire and World's Wildest Police Videos. However, Fox wanted to be able to bring in more of the demographic that CBS was able to reach at the time, so they enlisted the help of David Shore, who was able to pitch them a medical drama loosely inspired by the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, with the main character in this show actually being directly inspired by Holmes himself. Dr. House is much like Holmes in the sense he's an egomaniacal jerk who often still gets his way because he's often the smartest one in the room. So, why exactly do I not see House as an autistic character, you might be asking yourself? Well, there's a few reasons why. For starters, House is somebody that is incredibly rude to others and often very selfish and self-centered. He doesn't really care to communicate with anybody at all and only take on cases that he feels are beneficial to him or that interest him in his ever-growing pursuit of medical knowledge. While a common trait of autism is a lack of communication and not being able to recognize social cues and often misinterpreting what other people say, and possibly coming off as rude or jerkish as a result, this is not what House is doing. House is just being rude and jerkish on purpose. This is not a result of a lack of communication. He is just doing this on purpose to mess with people because I guess he thinks it's fun or funny or something. I don't know. House is a jerk. From what I've gathered, the reason why a lot of people think House is autistic is due to one episode called Lines in the Sand, where House is actually seen treating an autistic boy with eye worm. It's stated at one point in this episode by House's longtime friend James Wilson that he thinks House is actually treating this kid because he sees himself inside of him, and as a result he thinks House has autism, or as they call it, Asperger's syndrome in this episode. Admittedly, this is now an outdated term, but it was still a term that was used when this show was being created. However, it's later revealed in this exact episode that Dr. Wilson was just going around saying House had Asperger's in hopes of making the hospital like him more, and hopefully help people have a better opinion of him. So even in this exact episode that people often cite as an example of Dr. House being claimed to be autistic, they just disprove that right away. If anything, I personally think Dr. House shows more signs of antisocial personality disorder. Antisocial personality disorder is regarded by the Mayo Clinic in a famous article of theirs as a mental health condition in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others. They often may be very manipulative and lie a lot to get their way, and they will often try to find a way to have no remorse for any of their actions as well. House pretty much fills all these criteria in my opinion. House often does lie and manipulate people to get his way quite a bit in this show. He actually has committed several crimes and even been arrested. He does have a major lack of remorse, and even one time when he made a major mistake, he just got himself drunk so he could forget it the next day. He has no desire to take responsibility for any of his actions at all. To me, if there is a mental condition that Dr. House kind of fulfills more, I would say it's antisocial personality disorder, definitely not autism. But let's take a step back for a minute. If Dr. House actually had been stated to be autistic and had not been taken back in that episode that I just mentioned, what exactly would happen there? Well, obviously the show would have been a pretty blatantly bad representation of autism since, again, Dr. House shows more traits of antisocial personality disorder than autism. But even if the writers had changed a few of these traits to fit in line more with autism than antisocial personality disorder, it still would not be a good portrayal, and a lot of that comes down to the role House has in the show. Rather than being the hero of the show, House is more of an anti-hero. Whereas most heroes in popular media will be noble and have qualities that make you want to root for them, such as being selfless, sacrificial, and always being there to help others when they need it. House is quite literally none of these at all. He definitely falls more within the trope of an anti-hero. For those unaware, anti-heroes can actually have some heroic qualities on occasion. Generally are more of a wild card and tend to exist just to serve themselves, and only bring themselves pleasure no matter what, rather than really doing anything for anyone else or being there for others that may need it. They also may have a very gray moral code, making you question whether their actions are right or wrong. Some great examples of this are the Punisher, Deadpool, and Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. Also, Catwoman could fall under this category depending on the canon. Dr. House definitely falls into this category since, again, he just doesn't really care about anybody other than himself, and is mostly a sociopath and a loner, who will only take on cases when he feels like it and when he thinks it'll help his personal pursuit of medical knowledge, and he's often very rude to pretty much everybody around him, even the other doctors that are there helping him. Also, side note, Olivia Wilde, who plays Cora in Tron Legacy, actually plays Dr. Remy here, which is actually the only thing I like about this show at all. Overall, I really don't see House as an autistic character, and not really a great character to begin with either. House is not really a character worth rooting for, but I suppose that's sort of what the show is going for anyway. This show came out in the early 2000s, a time when bleak, more edgy media was pretty prevalent, and anti-hero characters like this were actually very popular. So I am actually glad that House is not an autistic character, because if he was, he would be a pretty bad portrayal of that, like I said. I am very glad, however, that mental health awareness and neurodivergent awareness too has evolved pretty far beyond the early 2000s when this show came out. With more understanding of autism and other neurodivergencies being out there now, it's a lot easier for shows out there now to get good portrayals of mental health and neurological conditions. I am really glad that we have shows tackling mental health in respectful ways, such as The Penguin, Carl the Collector, Dead End Paranormal Park, Thomas All Engines Go, Monster High, and so many more. It really makes my heart happy to see more positive mental health portrayals out there, and I hope we continue to see them for many years to come. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a like anyway. If you want to check out all my socials down below, you can see all those down there. And if you want to join my Discord too, where you can communicate with me and others offline, that should be linked down below. And if you want to check out my letterbox, that is linked down below as well. That's where I review movies, oftentimes movies or shows I won't review here on YouTube. So you can check that out too if you want extra content from me. But for now, I've been Noah the Otter, and I'll see you on the otter side. Bye!